There comes a time we all have to consider what to do with our remains when we pass away. From the company that brought you the Gender Reassignment Home Kit comes Body Bag Biodegradable Bags. That's right. We take your body, put it in our biodegradable bags, and plant you as a tree so people can eat your nuts forever. Brought to you by Regenerex, makers of Libtrol and other fine products.
If you love to drink Four Loko, but Braveheart will always be your favorite movie of all time, you're going to love The Urban Conservative.
Hey, buddy, you enjoy pickup trucks and listening to Coolio? Well, then you going to love The Urban Conservative.
First of all, how you gonna tell me we not in a pandemonium? Not only are we in a pandemonium, but we in a regression too. We are in a regression. Get out of here.
I don't know why I'm sitting in this chair. It's really hot. Having a suit, it's like 99 degrees in DC. Who's on this phone? Who am I talking to? Why did DC? Who gave me the phone? Jill, who gave me the phone? Hey, whose dog is this? I don't even know whose dog this is. Hello, if you're listening to me on the phone, I don't know whose dog this is. You're listening to The Urban Conservative? Come on, man.
Attention, maggot. Do you enjoy the smell of freshly ejected 5.56 millimeter ammunition? And for breakfast, you enjoy scrambled eggs with no salt, no pepper. And you enjoy grits, no salt, no pepper, no butter. Then you are going to love the Urban Conservative. Huh?
For the record, bro, you were on top mute. Whatever you just said was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I got you. I said what I said, and I'm gonna say it again, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into the Urban Conservative Podcast here on this Monday night, this beautiful Monday, October 30th. You're rocking with the Urban Conservative here on TUConservative.com, or you're on YouTube over at TUC Twins, or you on Twitter at TU, or you on one of the other many things that we're on. We appreciate you for rocking out with us every Monday night. Make sure you visit the website, TUConservative.com. Get yourself a membership. Come and be a part of the growing community of like-minded individuals who just want the best for America. You know, we happen to land on the conservative side of things, but our mission here is to continue to spread conservative values and policy ideas into urban communities across these beautiful United States of ours. And we're going to continue to do that, of course, with your support. So sponsor an episode, get a membership, do all of that wonderful stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. Tonight. So this Monday night, we're coming into about a week. We're about a week out finally for municipal elections, and you know, some of us are happy that we're getting to that point, right? And tonight's show, special show again, an alumni of the show, if you will, somebody that's been contributing not only just and you know, again, not just to the Republican effort, but to the conservative effort for, and again, not just the Latino community, but the community in the state of New York, former comptroller candidate for New York comptroller, and now candidate for New York City Council District 38. Welcome back to the show, our good brother Paul Rodriguez. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Love being back with you all. One of my favorite places to always come and talk and share.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure our audience knows your background, but just really quickly before we get into the campaign, remind everybody about your background. Talk a little bit about the industry you come out of. What made you kind of run for New York City Council District 38?
Okay, well, just a little bit about myself. I'm originally actually born here in New York City, in Queens, to Puerto Rican parents. Parents separated shortly after I was born, so I was raised by a single mom here in Queens, but then in San Juan, Puerto Rico for 10 years, so where I actually learned Spanish before English. And like I always like to remind people, I used to have once upon a time a really thick Puerto Rican accent speaking English. It's kind of faded by now. And then we moved to Atlanta, Georgia when I was 11, lived there many years, worked my way through school, and eventually getting a degree in economics. And I cold called my way, like I used to tell people I cold called my way into a job at the old Solomon Brothers, into their equity research department, which is their stock research. So I used to look at different companies, different sectors all throughout the world, and it was my job to analyze them and see if they would be good investments for our institutions, for our clients. Eventually transitioned to credit, and eventually becoming a corporate banker. So throughout my career in finance and banking, it was about 27 years, looking at various types of companies, entities, clients, from individuals all the way to CFOs and multinational corporations. And then I transitioned over to the nonprofit sector, working also with money and in their fundraising side. But because of that experience that I had about 3 years ago, I was approached to run first for New York City Controller, which is how we met. And despite only being on the conservative party line there, I was not endorsed by the Republican or one of the other major parties. So just the conservative party line, I got about 5.5% of the vote in New York City. And the amount was equivalent to roughly 2.5 to 3 times the number of registered conservatives. So it was pretty good, if I say so myself. And so then I was approached about running for state controller, and I was like going, are you kidding me? If I do it, I'd have to have full institutional support. And so I did. And so last year, I ran along as part of the statewide slate with Lee Zeldin and Alison Esposito, and then Michael Henry for Attorney General, Joe Pinion III for U.S. Senate. And it was a great experience. We weren't able to prevail ultimately, but we still moved New York further to the right than it had been previously. We also really made the difference in electing certain congressmen to Republican congressmen, which then allowed us to flip control of the House of Representatives. I ended up actually receiving almost 2.5 million votes for controller, which is the most that any challenger has received in at least 3 decades. Actually, before that, we had a Republican controller. But basically, we all did very well, and we've had that momentum that was building. All 62 counties, even the 5 boroughs in New York City, moved to the right. So here I am thinking, after 2 years of running for office, maybe I catch my breath again. But then I was approached and said, hey, Paul, how would you like to run for city council? And I said, well, maybe down the line, it's something I can do. At the time, I was represented by a man named Justin Brennan. But then what happened is we had the redistricting of all the city council district as a result of the census and all that. So now I was told that, Paul, you're no longer in Justin Brennan's district. Now you're in the district of this lady named Alexa Aviles, who's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. And
Paul, we're gonna dive into all of that. We're gonna get into all of that. I got her stuff pulled up. I got the map pulled up. We're gonna touch on all of that stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We got Paul Rodriguez in the house running for New York City Council District 38. Real quick, I want to just a couple of quick mentions. Early voting is underway right now. Make sure you get out, participate in early voting. If you can't get out election day, make sure you vote row B, which is the Republican row, or the conservative, but if you're out here in Suffolk County, and pretty much early voting is underway. Just a quick reminder. So Paul, you mentioned your opponent. I'm gonna be honest with you here. The district is heavy Democrat, right? And this seems to be a reoccurring theme. I mean, for us here in New York, this is the norm, right? We're usually running in an uphill battle against the Democrats. What have you been doing in this campaign to get into that community? Because what is that? Dyker Heights, Dyker Heights, Greenwood Heights, Windsor Terrace, and Borough Park, right? And some of Red Hook.
And Sunset Park. And
Sunset Park, right. So, I mean, with the demographics being 44% Hispanic, what have you been doing on the campaign trail to get out there and make your case known? Because it seems like she has a stranglehold there, right? From the last couple of elections. That's what it would appear from the numbers.
Well, first, 2 things. She's a first-term councilwoman. She just got elected 2 years ago. And second, the way that the district was laid out previously was a lot more skewed to the left. And the reason for that is typically people in that area where there was her predecessors would get about 80% plus of the vote consistently. In fact, she got elected, I believe, with about 81%. She had no Republican challenger. She had a third-party challenger who's actually a good friend. But that's how typically what it goes. But the reason why I came and jumped into this race and I was convinced to pursue it is because with the changing of the district, a big portion of that Park Slope area, which tends to be mostly white progressives, very liberal, working families type people, party, I mean. And then they added this chunk of Dyker Heights. Now, Dyker Heights tends to be a lot more right of center, regardless of the registration numbers. Dyker Heights tends to vote Republican, tends to vote more conservative. They tend to be more traditional. So now we have a district that looked really 80-20, 85-15. And now, based on the numbers even that I got last year and Lee Zeldin and also Curtis Sliwa, it's closer to a 60-40. 65-35, 60-40, maybe more. So that's why it's a lot more competitive. And the reason why I believe, and really the people in the party believe, that I could do a really good impact on this, obviously the Dyker Heights area, which is where I currently live. I used to live in Sunset Park years ago, but where I currently live, I guess ideologically and in terms of issues, we're more in sync. But because of my ethnicity, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm running against a Puerto Rican. She was born there, raised here. I was born here, raised over there. She lived in East New York, then Sunset Park. I lived in East New York, then Sunset Park. And the very first time I ever ran for office in 2004 was actually in a district that included all of Sunset Park. So it's an area that we already knew. And also, since my wife is Mexican, we know a lot of people in Sunset Park. So I have a very good profile, ethnically and otherwise, to be able to really reach out to the people in Sunset Park. And this is what I've been doing, in fact. But on top of that, I've received quite a lot of support from the Asian community, primarily the Chinese community, because they themselves are very dissatisfied with the state of what's happening, not just in the district, but throughout New York City and with the socialists. You know, they're not necessarily the biggest fans of socialism either. So all of those things make the district very winnable. But then on top of that, because it is what we call not only an off-year election because there's no governor, mayor, or president running, but
right.
off-year because it's only a 2-year sort of cycle as a result of the redistricting, is that turnout is going to be very low,
right?
Even lower than typical. I think she got elected. The turnout when she got elected 2 years ago was about 11,000 people, which is dismal. It could probably be half that this time around. So we really have a good opportunity to go in there, and so long as we can get our base out and get turnout of the people who are more on our side of the argument, we have a very good chance of picking that district off, but also a few more. There's about 4 or 5 that are in play, including my previous district, which is the 47th district, which is where Justin Brannan is the incumbent, and we have a candidate named Ari Kagan, who's also a sitting councilman, but got redistricted somewhat out of place. So now you have a former Democrat now become Republican running against the incumbent Democrat, and we have a very good chance of winning that seat too. So it's not going to be easy, and this is all in flux. And who knows? These are all completely brand new lines, so we're going to see how it really shapes out. But we have a very, very good opportunity. It's going to be, it's still going to be close, of course. And I think it's also a good argument seeing a socialist versus, let's say, a former banker who would be like, the epitome of capitalist. And
right. It's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Really lies, right?
Right. So, you were right. She got the last cycle. She got 80% of the vote, which was 9,228 votes. And if you add that with the 2,000 from the conservative candidate in this cycle, so 11,000 votes roughly determine this election. 11,483 votes. Now, on the policy side of things, obviously, I don't want to make the assumption because I'm not in the district that she's voting lockstep with the left and everything that she's doing, even though it's a city council race, right? I got to imagine that she's voting on issues and policies that match up with the bail reform madness and the rest of what the left is bringing to the table. Is that a safe estimation, or has she been doing things outside of the democratic norm, if you will?
Well, I think what is important to highlight is that she's really not a Democrat in the classic sense. I mean, she's not a liberal, she's not a progressive. Her allegiances are to the Democratic Socialists of America, which has been increasingly, and I'm not sure how aware you are of the DSA.
Oh, very, very, and their relationship with the working party. We're gonna talk about too, because she has that working parties line, which you might as well have took the Democratic Socialists of America line. What's the difference? But
yeah, if anything, she's to the left of the typical even New York liberal. So she's to the left Democratic Party. She's a staunch defund the police advocate. To this day, even though the big subway shooting that happened last summer happened exactly in our district on our train 36th Street, she is, and not just to defund the police, she believes in defunding, disarming, and eventually abolishing the police. She wants to close down not just Rikers Island, but all the jails, eventually replace them, I think, with social workers, drug counselors. In the idea, I always say that somehow the criminals will get some epiphany at some point saying, oh, I guess we don't need to commit crimes anymore because there's no jails and no cops. Everything is framed within the context of it's a crime of poverty, even though the victims of half of those crimes are themselves poor people who are getting victimized. So she definitely has that very left view. She doesn't believe in school vouchers or school choice. She doesn't want to expand the cap on charter schools. She wants to basically do away with merit-based education in the name of equity. So our specialized high schools and middle schools, she's doing away with the gifted and talented programs. She doing away with the specialized high school admissions test, to the point where basically schools like Stuyvesant and Bronx Science and Brooklyn Tech, eventually those standards will fall and there will be nothing that particularly makes them specialized or good. And part of the reason of that is because of open discrimination, because too many Asians get those seats in those schools and eventually go on to the Ivy League. That's also part of the reason why I've gotten a lot of support from the Asian community, because they oppose those type of policies. And then you have other issues again, quality of life, the migrant crisis, which they've completely mishandled. So there's just many issues that even people who may have voted for her 2 years ago because all they saw was Democrat, they didn't really know her. Now they've seen just what a truly avowed and dedicated socialist she is. And on top of that, we have now this big chunk of more conservative voters that are coming in. The whole district changes. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm cautiously optimistic, as it is always. It's an uphill battle. And as I ran there before for Congress many years ago, and again, it was very skewed. I think I got like 17%. So, but the demographics is a lot different now. And
right, sure.
The Diker Heights, the Asian community, the Orthodox Jewish community, which again, and particularly with everything that's been happening with the DSA and the Palestinian and Israel situation, they don't necessarily feel too inclined to support candidates from the DSA if they ever did. So I think there's a lot of moving parts there, which make the race very attractive and definitely flippable for us.
Right. Well, so talk to me a little bit about what's Paul's plan. You get on city council. You're obviously one voice on that council. And to be honest, maybe this is a conservative flaw that we don't sell pipe dreams, right? Maybe that's a flaw of ours, that we're not going to, tell you something that we can't do, right? So within the scope of being practical and what a conservative Republican voice on the New York City Council would bring to the table, what's your plan? You become that city councilman. What are you going there on day one in January? When I think January y'all would go in, right? What is that? What is that first week? month, 100 days, 6 months? What does that look like for City Councilman Rodriguez?
Well, certainly, my top three issues, which I've mentioned, are public safety, education, quality of life issues. Now, what we're seeing, and the reason why I keep bringing up the socialism aspect, is because what we're seeing increasingly in New York as well, I think in other places of the country, but specifically in New York City, is it isn't so much the typical Democrat versus Republican struggle, but really a struggle between these increasingly toxic DSA socialists against the rest of us common sense New Yorkers. So that's not just Republicans, conservatives, independents. We're talking very moderate Democrats, as well as increasingly some liberal Democrats who feel very disaffected in their own party, feel their party has been taken over, and who themselves have concerns about the increasing deterioration in public safety, the basically out of control cost of living, quality of life issues, where a lot of them, for example, with the migrant crisis, I've always said it's very easy to advocate for open borders and to declare yourself a sanctuary city when you're thousands of miles away from the southern border, and you never really expect to have to deal with the consequences of those beliefs, of those policies. So all of a sudden, when they're coming face to face at you, all of a sudden, a lot of our elected officials, all they can do is deflect the blame on Washington, which deservedly so. But
Right.
then they try to somehow avoid their own complicity in our situation, in the sense that they were the ones who were advocating always for these open borders, who refused to cooperate as a city, as a legislature, with the federal authorities in terms of enforcing enforcing legal immigration laws, who further defy the federal government by saying, oh, well, now we're a sanctuary city, and on a grander scale, we're a sanctuary state. So we don't care what laws you do at the federal level. We're going to do what we want. Well, guess what? Now, what you did was basically now invite all of these people to come into your
Right.
home without ever actually preparing for them. Imagine if you show up somebody's house, somebody said, hey, mi casa es su casa, come by anytime, stay with me, whatever you need. Then you show up, the person knocks on your door, they show up, and you say, hello, can I help you? I says, well, I came here to stay with you. You say I can come over. I don't have a place for you.
I didn't mean come over. I just meant like come over.
Says you can stay here, but I brought my whole family. I got 20 people behind me. So this is the situation we got.
Right.
So now even the Democrats are questioning, what do we really want to be a sanctuary city? I'm compassionate. I don't want to seem incompassionate. I have nothing against asylum seekers. Not that 100% of them could possibly realistically be asylum seekers, but putting that aside, we're compassionate people. I think we've given a lot. But does it really make sense now that we've seen the reality to continue this sanctuary city policy? Does it make sense not to close the border and maybe stop things until it can be put under control, not just have these massive people coming everywhere in a completely chaotic basis? So I think even when sometimes they don't admit it publicly, behind the voting booth, they're gonna think twice. And I know for example, some Jewish people that I know who are very liberal, but they're not exactly very happy about the way that the Democratic Socialists of America and all of their allies are treating this whole issue with what's happening in Israel. They feel
well, hold on, but real quick, this is a statement. This is a statement from her, right?
Yeah.
So, what I appreciate is that sometimes all you have to do is just let people say things in their own words, right? And our city, and this is quote from her website. Our city is facing a crisis created by political opportunists taking advantage of human beings fleeing for their lives. It is reprehensible to use families as political pawns, busing them to faraway destinations without notifying local authorities. Our city is a sanctuary. So there you have it. In their own words, you, ma'am, called this place a secretary along with your guy, Adams, sanctuary, along with Adams and the rest. And, had we had the right, in my estimation, had we had a city council people there in New York City that could make rational decisions, we don't end up in this crisis. You tell Eric and them, hey, we can't do that. It's not sustainable economically, right? Because I mean, from your estimation, currently with what we're spending, this can't be sustainable, right?
Not at all. Not at all. And in fact, even that statement, those sentences, it's a manipulation. Advantage of human beings fleeing for their lives. Who's fleeing for their lives? Unless they're maybe Ukrainians, there's some Ukrainians, but why would they be coming in through Mexico in the first place is beyond me.
Right.
But by framing the issue, it used to be that, well, the legal term is actually legal aliens, has always been the term, but then it was changed to the undocumented. So, but now we've gone all the way to the other extreme and basically labeled them all asylum seekers. So all of a sudden now every single migrant that comes into the country is a refugee. Now we know that cannot possibly be so, because not every single person coming in here is somehow fleeing religious or political persecution, or is a refugee of war. But that's how they frame the argument. Because then if you say anything, and doesn't mean you even have to be against it, but you might have a concern, you want to hear, you want to be heard out, because after all, when you elect a public official, you expect that that public official will listen to you, will prioritize your interests, and will represent you. You don't expect that public official to simply tell you, shut up, be quiet, and if you say anything, now I'm going to call you racist and a xenophobe, because that's what's happening. But if you frame it as they're all asylum seekers, if you say a word, then somehow, again, you're incompassionate. What's wrong with you? Are you against asylum seekers? Well, no, you can't even mention the fact that it's impossible that they could all, first of all, be asylum seekers. We know historically that only a very small portion would ever qualify for asylum. And as of today, I think only about, very, very small fraction of the 100,000 plus that have already come into our city have even applied for asylum, much less work permits. So this is where the concerns lie. But our elected officials in the council just want you to be quiet, want to show, again, virtue signal at how compassionate they are. And what I say, the difference between policy and virtue signaling is consequences and having a plan. You can say many great things, but if you don't actually have a plan to deal with the potential consequences, then it's not really public policy. It's just virtue signaling, which is the bulk of what it seems is what our elected officials in the city.
Yeah, that's a fair statement to make. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We're gonna come right back with Paul Rodriguez. We're gonna find out how we can support his campaign. We're a little, like I said, what are we, about 2 weeks out, or a week or something like that out? No, it's the 7th. A week from tomorrow. So we're coming into November tomorrow, but we're going to find out how we can support the campaign. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you'll be right back here with us tomorrow morning for Top of the Morning. We'll be right back. Real quick commercial. Stay tuned.
Because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for rocking out with us here on TUC here at the Urban Conservative. It is the Urban Conservative Podcast. Right here on the Monday night, we are talking with candidate for New York City Council District 38, Paul Rodriguez, alumni of the show, been here many times. We love what you do out there, Paul. And again, I have to mention that it's, some people get disenfranchised when they run and they don't win, and they do these things. So we want to salute you and applaud you for keeping that energy and continuing to try to push for what you know is the right thing. We wholeheartedly stand behind you, endorse your campaign, and whatever you got, whatever you're doing, we're gonna rock out with you regardless. So real quick on the tail end of this, give the stump speech, let the folks know what you got going on, how they can support the campaign in these last 7 to 8 days here, and how they can donate, how they can, give them the whole rundown. The floor is yours.
Well, again, my name is Paul Rodriguez, and I'm the Republican Conservative Party candidate for City Council in Brooklyn's 38th District. Really, what I was mentioning to you, the struggle here that we see in New York is not so much Democrat versus Republican. It's really these toxic socialists versus the rest of us common sense New Yorkers who simply want to put common sense solutions back to our governance. We want a city that we can live in that's safe, where we can actually make ends meet, where we can recuperate the quality of life that we used to have. As you all know, when I've come here in the past, I've always said that I'm very optimistic about the future of our city and our state, and I believe we can turn around and we can recover from the pandemic, from the 8 years of de Blasio. But I want to make sure that that recovery happens in the next 3 to 5 years, not in the next 2 decades. I would really love to be in a city, in a place where my family can continue to live, where my daughters can continue to live here, get married, raise their family, maybe raise their grandchildren, and really stay in this wonderful city that we all love, that we all have seen how wonderful it could be. So if you want to support my campaign, just need to go to Rodriguez for NYC. So right here, as it says here, rodriguezfornyc.com is my website, and then at Rodriguez for NYC, it's my Facebook, my Twitter, X, and my Instagram. You can check there. You can, particularly on the social media, I'm very active. I've been very active recently on many issues, and you can really see what I'm all about. You can donate. One of the wonderful things about the campaign finance system here in New York City is that for every dollar of eligible contributions that we get from New York City residents, the campaign finance board will match it 8-1. So a $10 donation, which is the minimum, will become 90, 100, 900. And if you go to the max of 175, it'll become 100 and 1,575. So please come out. It's only a week left. A week from tomorrow is the election. It's very important that regardless of whatever else you do, you go out and vote. You don't sit this one out. This is one of the best chances that we have to pick up some seats in the city council and continue the momentum that we've seen for the last couple of years in terms of moving further towards more common sense governance. And it's also, it's imperative. I always say the Democrats, they are relentless. The Democrats to this day are convinced that they will turn Texas blue again. So we New Yorkers should not be so discouraged to think, oh, we can never make inroads. Of course we can. We had Giuliani for mayor for 8 years. We have Bloomberg. We had George Pataki as our governor for 3 terms. We absolutely can elect not conservatives and Republicans and just people of common sense. But it requires, at the end of the day, you, the voters, to motivate yourselves to go out and vote. Early voting is already taking place, starting Saturday all the way through Sunday. So you can take advantage of that. Otherwise, definitely show up next Tuesday, November 7th. Every vote is going to count, and we got to make it worth our while. So again, thank you very much. I've had a very long few weeks, as you could probably tell, but
yeah, no worries. Well, look, Brother Paul, we appreciate you for coming on. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the website is here. You can go here and donate. The website is, I want to make sure I get it right, Rodriguez 4, and that is FORNYC.com. Click on that donate tab, click on that volunteer tab, support what Paul got going on. We need to flip these seats on the council, and keep chipping away at this far leftist agenda that's rotting away our schools, that is absolutely wasting our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. And it starts with our local elections. It starts with our school boards, our city councils, and our county and state legislators. So get out this November 7th. Make sure you vote. Early voting is underway. Make sure you check with your Board of Elections to find out where and how you can do early voting, and make sure you are following the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, for my twin brother, Abdul Ali, and for Paul Rodriguez, again, thank you for joining us, sir. We will catch you guys tomorrow morning for Top of the Morning, and we will be back here next Monday night for our candidate roundup. Hopefully, Paul, you'll join us. I know it's going to be crazy. We're asking the candidates if they can come give us 3 or 4 minutes on their thoughts, going into the election. So we'll see you guys here tomorrow morning for my twin brother, Abdul Ali. I am, of course, Raheem Architect Soto. This has been the Urban Conservative. We appreciate you guys for tapping in. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you.
Because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.